It's Ash from Super Videos. In this video we're going to be talking about Heath and when Heath is going to return. So obviously we do know that Heath was taken in 706 when Heath and Tara were on their run and everything, and the only thing we know is Heath left either a sign or something was left as a hint for his disappearance with 3 letters in the actual message, PPP. And we also know that the reason that the writers had to write Heath out of the story was because he was cast as the lead character in a new reboot of 24, and he has like the main lead, so that's why he's not gonna have time to be on The Walking Dead. That's why they wrote him out of the story. But they definitely left it open for him to come back sometime in the future. There's actually 5 possibilities in which this can go. The first possibility is that the Oceanside is responsible for Heath's disappearance and everything. And that could make sense because they were around the Oceanside at the time when Heath disappeared. But the problem with that theory is that they would have revealed something about that by now if that was the case. They would have gave us a hint or something along those lines. And also to add to that, I'm sure Tara told Cindy from the Oceanside that she was looking for her friend, that her friend is African American, he has dreads and everything, so Cindy would have definitely told Tara if she knew something about it and if Heath was in fact at the Oceanside. Now you can make the case that Cindy didn't know about it and that maybe Netanya, the leader of Oceanside, took Heath prisoner or something like that, but from what we know from Netanya so far, she doesn't look like she's the type of character who would capture someone, keep them prisoner, and wouldn't tell anything to her people about it, and her people wouldn't find anything out. So that's unlikely to happen, but like I said, it's a possibility. The next possibility is that Heath's disappearance is related to the scavengers or the heapsters. Now, obviously there's one major problem with that, and that's that the junkyard community that the heapsters are from is very far away from where Oceanside is and from where Heath disappeared from. But just putting that aside, again, if that was the case, if the scavengers were in fact responsible for Heath's disappearance, then we would definitely get a hint about it by now, and they would definitely tell us something about it. And also, the scavengers don't look like the community that would keep prisoners or anything like that. And again, Rick went to the junkyard, and if Heath was there, Rick would probably have found out. The junkyard looks huge, but I don't think that they have like little sections just for prisoners or anything like that. So if Heath was taken by the scavengers, we would definitely have found out about it by now. The next possibility is that Heath's disappearance is linked to Negan and the Saviors, and that they took him prisoner. Now, the first problem with that is, although it's definitely in character for the Saviors to take people prisoner, especially people who the Saviors want to know more about their community. And to add to that, we do know that Heath knows about Negan. So, because obviously he was involved in the first attack on the Saviors outpost. So Heath definitely knows about Negan and the Saviors, and he would definitely not say anything that would jeopardize the lives of the people at Alexandria, so he wouldn't tell them where Alexandria is, and that may leave a reason why they would take Heath, and that's definitely possible. And we do know that the Saviors have some prisoners, so that's definitely possible. But again, if that was the case, I'm pretty sure that we would pretty much find out about that by now, and there would have been some sort of reveal or hint about that, which there wasn't. So that's unlikely as well, but it's another sort of likely option. The next thing that could be linked to Heath's disappearance is the Whisperers. So the Whisperers could have taken Heath. There's a bunch of things wrong with that theory. The first one is, again, the location. The Whisperers are supposed to be very far away from all of the other communities, so it's unlikely for them to be around to capture Heath. And furthermore, the Whisperers are not the type of community that would take prisoners. They just kill people. And they don't just kill people, they kill people who cross their borders or their territory or boundaries. And obviously, if the Whisperers' boundaries were around that area, then it's very unlikely that they weren't detected by any of the communities that we've met so far, and that they've been so hidden up to this point. From the saviors, from the scavengers, from the oceanside, from everyone. But you could make the case that because they're the Whisperers and they have this sort of strategy that keeps them camouflaged from people, that may be the reason why they're not found out. But again, if that's the case, it kind of makes sense why the others have not found them. But because everyone is in their territory, why aren't they just attacking everyone to kill everyone off? Because they're in their territory. And that leads me to think that the Whisperers are probably not involved with Heath's disappearance. The next possibility is that Heath's disappearance is kind of linked to Magna's introduction from the comic book. Now, although that seems like a great idea to remix the story and kind of introduce Magna's group and have it so that their story is kind of started before they actually get introduced. But the problem with that again is, if Magna's group is around, why haven't anyone seen them so far? And why are they not a part of any community there? Because obviously they're looking for some sort of community when we meet them in the comics. And just to add to that, if it is in fact Magna's group that is linked to Heath's disappearance, then why did they take Heath? There is no reason why they would take Heath. It's out of character for Magna's group to take Heath. There's no reason for them to do that. So because of that, that theory also seems a bit inconsistent and unlikely, even though it's a cool idea. The last possibility, which is the most likely one in my opinion, is that Heath's disappearance is something that is original to the TV show, and we can't use the events from the comics to predict why Heath disappeared. And just to add to that, it's not linked to any other community that we know of so far either. And if that's the case, then there's really no way we would know about what really happened and how he comes back or when he comes back, because we just don't know. Only Scott and Gimple would know about it. So that's the most likely case, because the others, in my opinion, are just a bit inconsistent with the story and everything, so they just wouldn't work. Now, in terms of when he's gonna come back, so if his disappearance is linked with the Oceanside, then he would come back sometime in season 8. If his disappearance is related to the scavengers or the heapsters, again, he would probably come back in season 8. If it's linked to the saviors, again, he would probably come back sometime during season 8. But if his disappearance is linked to Magna's group, then he's going to come back sometime at the end of season 8 or maybe even season 9. If it's connected to the Whisperers, then he's probably not going to come back till the Whisperers have been introduced and we get to see their camp and everything, which is probably going to be later in season 9. And the last case, if his disappearance is something that is original to the TV show, then there's just no way we would know. He could come back during season 8 during the war, he could come back after the war, or he could come back in a few seasons. So there's just really no way for us to tell. And obviously, because we know that he's the lead character in the new reboot of 24, then we do know that he's most likely not going to come back in season 8. So if he comes back, it's possibly going to be in season 9. One more thing I want to say before I end this video is that whenever someone goes missing or someone disappears or something like that, fans should stop linking it to something that happens in the comics and or some arc that is currently existing or anything like that. I'll give you an example. So if you go back to season 4, the second half of season 4 and also the first half of season 5, we saw Beth disappear. Immediately when it happened, people were saying that the hunters or the termites or the cannibals took her and everything like that, because they were the next main or big villain from the comics. And obviously they were going to Terminus, so people were saying that she's going to be at Terminus and everything like that. And what ended up happening was that her arc was related to Dawn. So Dawn and her group were the people who were responsible for taking Beth and her disappearance. And obviously because Dawn didn't exist in the comics, it was something that was original to the TV show. So at that point in time, nobody would have guessed that Beth's disappearance was related to some new characters or Dawn. Some people may have guessed that, but the majority of people were saying that it was the hunters and everything. So it's the same scenario here. Because the Whisperers are the next big villain in the comic and they're the group that's going to come up after the Saviors, fans immediately say that Heath's disappearance is related to the Whisperers and that the Whisperers took him. So it's the same kind of thing. So we shouldn't just look at what we know so far. It could be something that is just out there that we have no knowledge about. So that's why, in my opinion, it's a bit too early to predict where Heath is. But from what we know so far, these are the 5 possibilities. And at the end of the day, whenever he comes back, I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a new original group or something like that, or it's going to be one of the other groups that I mentioned. I want to know your opinions about this. What do you think happened to Heath? Who do you think took him? And what possibility that I mentioned is most consistent and do you most agree with? That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.